The transport helicopter's rotors cut through the morning air like angry wasps, carrying Sergeant Maya Chan toward what everyone called the graveyard. Forward Operating Base Phoenix had earned its nickname not from rising from ashes, but from how many soldiers had died trying to hold it. Maya pressed her face against the small window, watching the endless brown landscape roll beneath them. The mountains in the distance looked like broken teeth against the pale sky. Maya had been in Afghanistan for 8 months, but this was her first assignment to Phoenix. Her previous posting at Kandahar had been relatively quiet, mostly convoy security and checkpoint duty. She was small for a soldier, barely meeting the height requirements, with dark hair pulled back in regulation style and serious brown eyes that seemed to take in everything around her. Most people underestimated her at first glance, which had become both her greatest frustration and her secret weapon. The helicopter began its descent, and Maya could see the base sprawling below them like a small city made of concrete barriers and canvas tents. Phoenix was positioned in a valley between 2 mountain ranges, which made it strategically important for controlling the region, but tactically nightmarish to defend. The Taliban controlled the high ground on both sides, and everyone knew it. Staff Sergeant Rodriguez, sitting across from Maya, had a shout over the rotor noise. "Chun, you ever been this far forward before?" His weathered face showed the strain of too many deployments, too many friends lost. Maya shook her head. "No, Sergeant. This is my first time at Phoenix." "Well, welcome to hell," Rodriguez said with a grim smile. "The Taliban hit us every few days. Mortars, snipers, sometimes full assaults. We've held them off so far, but barely." He leaned closer. "Word is they're planning something big. Intelligence says there's a high-value target in the area, some kind of Taliban commander who's been coordinating attacks across the whole province." The helicopter touched down with a jarring thud, and immediately soldiers began running toward it with their heads down. Maya grabbed her gear and followed Rodriguez off the aircraft. The heat hit her like a physical blow, dry and scorching even though it was only 10 in the morning. The air tasted of dust and diesel fuel. Lieutenant Colonel Barnes met them at the landing zone. He was tall and lean, with gray at his temples, and the kind of commanding presence that made people snap to attention without thinking. "Rodriguez, Chun, welcome to Phoenix. I wish I could say you're here for vacation, but we've got work to do." They walked quickly across the base, dodging other soldiers and military vehicles. Maya noticed the burn marks on several buildings and the fresh sandbags stacked everywhere. This was definitely not Kandahar. "Chun," Barnes said as they walked, "I've read your file. Top marks in marksmanship training, expert qualification with the M4 and M249. But I notice you've never been assigned sniper duty." Maya felt a familiar knot in her stomach. This conversation had happened before. "No, sir. I've requested sniper training multiple times, but it's always been denied." "Why do you think that is?" Maya had learned to be diplomatic about this topic. "I believe there are concerns about my size and physical capabilities, sir." Barnes stopped walking and looked at her directly. "Your size?" He seemed genuinely puzzled. "Chun, you're 5'4". Carlos Hathcock was 5'7". Ludmila Pavlichenko was 5'6". Some of the best snipers in history weren't giants. He resumed walking. "The truth is, smaller snipers are often better. Easier to hide, less likely to be spotted. Plus, you scored higher on the marksmanship test than anyone in your training company." Maya didn't know what to say. She had never heard an officer talk about her size as an advantage before. They reached the command center, a reinforced building in the center of the base. Inside, it was cooler but still uncomfortably warm. Maps covered the walls, marked with red pins showing recent Taliban positions and attacks. The radio crackled constantly with reports from patrols and observation posts. Major Patterson, the base intelligence officer, was waiting for them. She was a serious woman with short blonde hair and tired eyes. "Gentlemen, Sergeant Chun, we've got a situation developing." She pointed to a map on the wall. "Our sources confirm that Zahir al-Masri is in the area. He's been coordinating Taliban operations across 3 provinces, and he's directly responsible for at least 6 IED attacks that killed American soldiers." Maya studied the map. Al-Masri's suspected location was marked on a ridge about 3 kilometers from the base. well within the range of the mountains that surrounded them. The problem, Patterson continued, is that he's staying in a compound that's heavily defended and positioned perfectly for escape routes. Any ground assault would be a bloodbath, and we can't get air support close enough without risking civilian casualties. The whole area is full of families and kids. Barnes stepped closer to the map. What about a precision strike? One shot, one target. That's exactly what we're thinking, Patterson said. But we're talking about a very difficult shot. The compound is approximately 3,200 meters from our best sniper position here on the base. That's beyond the effective range of most rifles and marksmen. Maya felt her heart racing. She had studied long-range shooting extensively, reading everything she could find about the physics, the calculations, the mental discipline required. She had practiced on shooting ranges whenever possible, though never at distances even close to 3,200 meters. "We do have the Barrett," Rodriguez said quietly. Barnes nodded. "The M107.50 caliber. It's rated for effective range up to 1,800 meters, but it's been used successfully at much greater distances in ideal conditions. The conditions tomorrow morning should be ideal," Patterson added. "Weather forecast shows minimal wind, clear visibility, temperature around 75 degrees at dawn. If we're going to try this, that's our window." Maya found herself speaking before she fully realized it. "Sir, I'd like to volunteer for the shot." The room went quiet. Rodriguez looked surprised, Patterson raised her eyebrows, and Barnes studied Maya with new interest. "Chun," Rodriguez said carefully, "this isn't like qualifying at the range. This is the most difficult shot anyone's ever attempted from this base. If you miss, Al-Masri will disappear, and we might not get another chance." "I understand that, Sergeant," Maya replied. "But I've studied long-range shooting extensively. I know the calculations, the environmental factors, the breathing techniques." And she hesitated, then decided to be completely honest. "I've been preparing for this my whole career." Barnes stepped forward. "What do you mean, preparing for this?" Maya took a deep breath. "Sir, every time I've been denied sniper training, I've trained myself. I've studied ballistics, practiced range estimation, learned to read wind and weather. I've shot every distance I could access, with every rifle I could get my hands on. I know I'm not the obvious choice, but I believe I can make this shot." The officers exchanged glances. Maya could see them weighing the risks, considering alternatives that probably didn't exist. Finally, Barnes spoke. "The Barrett isn't like other rifles, Chun. It kicks like a mule and weighs 30 pounds. Are you sure you can handle it physically?" "I'd like the chance to prove it, sir." Patterson consulted her watch. "If we're doing this, we need to start preparing now. The shot window is dawn, which gives us about 18 hours to set up, do range calculations, and get everything positioned perfectly." Barnes made his decision. "All right, Chun, you'll take the shot. But first, we're going to spend the rest of today proving you can handle that rifle. Rodriguez, take her to the range. If she can't manage the Barrett, we'll have to find another option." As they left the command center, Maya's mind was racing. This was the opportunity she had dreamed about since joining the army. But it was also terrifyingly high stakes. One shot to eliminate a major Taliban commander. One chance to prove that all her self-training and preparation meant something. The rifle range was on the opposite side of the base, partially shielded by concrete barriers. The Barrett M107 was waiting for her, and Maya was shocked by her first close look at it. The weapon was massive, with a barrel over 2 feet long and a muzzle brake that looked like it could redirect a jet engine. The scope mounted on top was larger than some telescopes she had seen. "This beauty weighs 30 pounds unloaded," Rodriguez explained as he helped Maya position the rifle. "The .50 caliber rounds are about 4 inches long and weigh 1.5 ounces each. When you fire, it's going to feel like someone hit you in the shoulder with a baseball bat." Maya settled into position behind the rifle, adjusting the bipod legs and getting comfortable with the weight. The stock felt solid against her shoulder, and she was surprised to find that her smaller frame actually helped her get a stable shooting position. "The recoil is going to be the biggest challenge," Rodriguez continued. "Most people flinch in anticipation, which throws off their aim completely. You have to stay relaxed and follow through, even knowing what's coming." Maya spent the next hour getting familiar with the Barrett dry firing, practicing the trigger pull without ammunition, and adjusting the scope. When they finally loaded live rounds, she was as ready as she could be. The first shot was a shock. Even with ear protection and knowing what to expect, the sound was overwhelming and the recoil powerful. But Maya managed to stay on target, and the shot hit within a few inches of where she was aiming at 500 meters. Not bad, Rodriguez admitted. Let's try 800 meters. They moved to longer and longer distances throughout the afternoon. With each shot, Maya became more comfortable with the Barrett's characteristics. She learned to anticipate the recoil, to account for the slight delay between trigger pull and bullet impact at long distances, to read the heat shimmer that could distort her view of distant targets. By evening, she was hitting targets consistently at 1,500 meters, which was already an impressive distance. But 3,200 meters would be more than twice as far as anything she had ever attempted. As the sun set over the mountains, painting the sky orange and red, Maya cleaned the Barrett with the kind of careful attention usually reserved for religious rituals. Tomorrow morning, she would attempt a shot that could change the course of military operations in the entire region. She didn't sleep much that night, lying on her narrow bunk and running through calculations in her head. Wind speed, air density, bullet drop, the Coriolis effect. At 3,200 meters, even tiny factors could make the difference between success and failure. Around midnight, she gave up on sleep and went outside to look at the stars. The desert night was clear and cold, with no artificial lights to dim the brilliant canopy overhead. Maya had always found something calming about the stars, the way they put everything in perspective. She was still outside when a shadow approached. It was Lieutenant Colonel Barnes, also unable to sleep apparently. "Big day tomorrow, Chun," he said quietly, settling down on a nearby ammunition crate. "Yes, sir. I'm ready." Barnes was quiet for a moment, studying the stars. "Can I ask you something personal? Why is this so important to you? Why push so hard to become a sniper when you could have a perfectly good military career in other specialties?" Maya had been asked this question before, but never by someone who seemed genuinely interested in her answer, rather than looking for reasons to discourage her. "When I was growing up, sir, people always told me what I couldn't do. Too small for basketball, too quiet to be a leader, too young to understand important things. I joined the army partly to prove them wrong, but also because I wanted to do something that really mattered. Something where being underestimated could actually be an advantage." She paused, looking up at the constellation Orion hanging low on the horizon. Snipers have to be patient, precise, calm under pressure. They have to think through complex problems quickly and make split-second decisions that can affect entire operations. Size and strength matter less than intelligence and steady hands. She looked at Barnes. "I think I was born to do this job, sir. Tomorrow is my chance to prove it." Barnes nodded slowly. "Well, Chun, I hope you're right, because in about 6 hours, you're going to find out." Maya woke before her alarm, the desert cold seeping through the thin walls of her quarters. It was 4:30 a.m., and the sky was still black except for a faint gray line on the eastern horizon. She had managed maybe 2 hours of actual sleep, but her mind was sharp and focused. Today was the day she had been preparing for her entire military career, whether she knew it or not. She dressed quickly in her combat uniform, checking and rechecking her gear. Every piece of equipment had been cleaned and inspected the night before, but Maya went through the ritual again anyway. Attention to detail could mean the difference between life and death, success and failure. The mess hall was nearly empty when she arrived for breakfast. Most of the base was still asleep, but the soldiers pulling early guard duty nodded to her respectfully. Word had spread about today's mission, and Maya could feel the weight of their expectations. She forced herself to eat, though her stomach was tight with nervous energy. Protein for sustained energy, complex carbohydrates for mental clarity. She had learned about nutrition for marksmen during her self-directed training, studying everything she could find about peak performance. Lieutenant Colonel Barnes appeared at her table with a cup of coffee and a serious expression. "Ready for this, Chun?" "Yes, sir." "More than ready." Barnes studied her face, looking for any signs of doubt or hesitation. Maya met his gaze steadily, projecting more confidence than she actually felt. The wind reports are good, Barnes said. Meteorology says we'll have less than 5 miles per hour crosswind at dawn, with minimal temperature variance. These are about as ideal conditions as we're ever going to get. Maya nodded. She had been monitoring weather reports obsessively for the past week, hoping for exactly these conditions. Wind was the enemy of long-range shooting, and temperature changes could affect bullet trajectory in ways that were difficult to predict. They walked together toward the sniper position that had been prepared on the highest building in the base. Maya carried the Barrett case herself, insisting on maintaining personal control of the weapon. The rifle had been zeroed to her specific shooting style yesterday, and she didn't want anyone else handling it. The building was a 3-story concrete structure that served as the base communication center. A special platform had been constructed on the roof, with sandbags and camouflage netting to conceal the sniper position from enemy observation. Maya climbed the narrow stairs, feeling the weight of the rifle case and her other equipment. Staff Sergeant Rodriguez was already on the roof, along with Major Patterson and a soldier Maya didn't recognize who was introduced as Specialist Williams, a spotter with experience in long-range operations. Williams has been analyzing the target area all night, Patterson explained as Maya set up the Barrett. He's got updated intelligence on wind patterns, potential obstacles, and Al-Masri's movement patterns. Williams was young, maybe 22, with intense blue eyes and steady hands as he adjusted his spotting scope. Sergeant Chun, the target building is a 2-story compound approximately 3,247 meters from this position. The primary target has been observed moving between the upper floor windows and a courtyard area. Based on his schedule over the past 3 days, he should appear in the upper floor window at approximately 0630 hours for his morning prayers. Maya checked her watch, 5:15 a.m. She had just over an hour to complete all her preparations and calculations. The Barrett went together with practiced efficiency. Maya had disassembled and reassembled the rifle so many times that she could probably do it blindfolded. Every component was checked twice, every connection verified. The massive scope was aligned perfectly, and Maya confirmed that all her previous adjustments were still accurate. Range to target is 3,247 meters, Williams continued, reading from his notes. Elevation difference between our position and the target is approximately 47 meters, with us higher. Current barometric pressure is 30.15 inches. Temperature is 68 degrees and rising slowly. Maya pulled out her range card and began making calculations. At this distance, bullet drop would be enormous, over 400 inches if she didn't account for it properly. The .50 caliber round would leave the barrel at about 2,800 feet per second, but by the time it reached the target, it would have slowed significantly and dropped substantially. Wind was another critical factor. Even the 5-mile-per-hour crosswind that meteorology was predicting could push the bullet several feet off target at 200-plus meters. Maya had to estimate where the wind would be strongest along the bullet's 3-second flight path and compensate accordingly. But there were other factors that most people never considered. The Coriolis effect, caused by the Earth's rotation, could deflect the bullet several inches at this distance. Air density would change as the sun came up and heated the ground. Even a slight vibration from the base's generators could affect the rifle's stability. Maya had studied all of these variables extensively during her self-directed training. She had read technical manuals, military studies, even physics textbooks to understand the complex science behind extreme long-range shooting. Now all of that theoretical knowledge would be put to the ultimate test. Chun, Rodriguez said quietly, "I've been thinking about this shot all night. Even under perfect conditions, this is at the absolute limit of what's possible with this rifle and ammunition. The bullet will be in flight for over 3 seconds. In that time, anything could happen." Maya understood what he was really saying. She was attempting something that was barely within the realm of possibility, and failure was not just likely but expected. "I know, Sergeant," she replied while continuing her calculations. "But sometimes the impossible becomes possible when you prepare properly and execute perfectly." As the eastern sky began to lighten, Maya settled into her final shooting position behind the Barrett. The rifle was supported by a bipod in front and a sandbag in back, creating a stable platform. Maya arranged herself so that every part of her body was positioned for maximum stability and comfort, knowing she might need to maintain this position for an extended period. Williams positioned himself next to her with the spotting scope, which had much higher magnification than a rifle scope, and would allow him to observe the bullet's impact and provide corrections if a second shot was necessary. Target building is clearly visible, Williams reported quietly. I can see movement in the courtyard, but the upper floor window is still empty. Maya controlled her breathing, settling into the rhythm that would be crucial for the shot. Deep breath in, half out, hold, natural respiratory pause. This was when her body would be most stable, when her heart rate would cause the least disturbance to her aim. The radio crackled softly. Major Patterson was in communication with intelligence assets in the area, confirming that the target was still in the compound and maintaining his normal schedule. Chun, we're getting confirmation that Al-Masri is in the building, Patterson whispered. Overhead surveillance shows heat signatures consistent with his location on the upper floor. Maya nodded without moving her eye from the scope. Through the powerful optic, she could see the target building clearly despite the distance. It was a traditional Afghan compound with high walls and a flat roof, similar to hundreds of others she had seen during her deployment. But somewhere in that building was a man responsible for killing American soldiers, and Maya had been given the opportunity to stop him. The minutes passed slowly. Maya remained in position, monitoring her breathing and heart rate, making tiny adjustments to the rifle's position as the wind changed or her body settled slightly. Williams provided constant updates on conditions and target area activity. Wind is steady at 4 miles per hour from the east, Williams whispered. Temperature is now 72 degrees and climbing. Visibility is excellent. At 6:25 a.m., Williams suddenly tensed. Movement in the target window. Adult male. Appears to be the correct height and build. Maya shifted slightly, refining her aim point. Through her scope, she could see a figure in traditional Afghan clothing moving near the window. But she needed positive identification before taking the shot. Stand by, Patterson said into her radio. We need confirmation before engaging. The waiting was the hardest part. Maya had read about this in military sniper accounts, the tension of having a target in sight, but needing to wait for absolute confirmation or the perfect moment. Her finger rested lightly on the trigger, but she maintained perfect discipline. Positive identification confirmed. Came the voice through Patterson's radio. The target is Zahir al-Masri. You are cleared to engage. Williams made final observations through his spotting scope. Target is standing near the center of the window, approximately 2 meters from the opening. Wind is steady, all conditions optimal. Maya made her final calculations and adjustments. The target appeared as a small figure through her scope, barely visible at this extreme distance. She would be aiming for center mass, the largest target area, but at 3,247 meters, even that represented a very small target. Send it when ready, Patterson said quietly. Maya controlled her breathing one final time. Deep breath in, let half of it out, hold at the natural respiratory pause. Her crosshairs were steady on the target. Wind was constant. Her position was stable. All calculations had been made. But just as Maya began to apply pressure to the trigger, something unexpected happened. The target moved away from the window, disappearing from view. Target is no longer visible, Williams reported. He's moved back into the room. Maya maintained her position, knowing that movement was often temporary. Targets appeared and disappeared in windows, but patience was a sniper's greatest tool. They waited. 5 minutes passed, then 10. Maya's position was becoming uncomfortable, but she didn't dare move and risk losing her precisely adjusted setup. At 6:47 a.m., Williams spotted movement again. He's back. Same position as before, standing near the window. But this time, something was different. Maya could see through her scope that there were now 2 figures in the window area. Al-Masri and someone else, possibly a bodyguard or family member. 2 targets visible, Maya reported, requesting confirmation on engagement parameters. Patterson's voice was tense. Intelligence confirms that Al-Masri is the primary target, but We need to avoid civilian casualties. Can you distinguish between the two individuals? Maya studied the scene through her scope. At 3,247 meters, even with magnification, she could only make out basic shapes and movement patterns. The two figures appeared to be talking, moving around each other near the window. This was exactly the kind of complication that made extreme long-range shooting so difficult. It wasn't just about making a shot technically, but about making the right shot under complex and changing conditions. Williams was studying the same scene through his more powerful spotting scope. One individual appears to be wearing military-style clothing. The other is in traditional robes. Based on intelligence descriptions, the individual in robes should be our target. Maya tracked the movement of both figures, waiting for a clear shot at the correct target. The margin for error was essentially zero, both in terms of accuracy and target identification. Then, for just a moment, the two figures separated. Al-Masri, in traditional robes, stood alone near the window while the other individual moved deeper into the room. Clear shot on primary target, Williams confirmed. Maya settled her crosshairs on center mass of the figure in robes. All her calculations were still valid. Wind conditions hadn't changed significantly. Her position was stable. This time, she completed the trigger pull. The Barrett fired with a tremendous crash that echoed across the base and sent a powerful recoil into Maya's shoulder. The muzzle flash was brilliant in the dawn light, and smoke obscured her view for several seconds. Williams kept his eye on the spotting scope, tracking the bullet's flight toward the distant target. At 3,247 meters, even a .50 caliber bullet took time to reach its destination. Flight time, Williams called out, counting the seconds until impact. Maya worked the bolt quickly, ejecting the spent cartridge and chambering a fresh round in case a follow-up shot was necessary. Her shoulder ached from the Barrett's recoil, but her mind was focused entirely on the target area. Impact, Williams shouted. Target is down. Direct hit. Target is not moving. Patterson immediately got on the radio to confirm the kill and coordinate intelligence gathering from the strike. Maya remained in position, scanning the area for other threats or targets of opportunity. Through her scope, she could see that the target had fallen and was not moving. The other individual in the room appeared to be taking cover, but there was no return fire from the compound. Her shot had been successful, but as Maya finally allowed herself to relax slightly, Williams made an observation that would change everything. "Sergeant Shun," he said quietly, his voice confused. "There's something unusual about the target area. I'm seeing some kind of response that doesn't make sense." Maya shifted her scope to observe what Williams was seeing. In the target building, she could see people moving, but not in the chaotic way she would expect after a sniper attack. The movement seemed organized, almost rehearsed. "What are you seeing?" Patterson demanded. Williams continued studying the area through his high-powered scope, his expression growing more puzzled. "Ma'am, the people in that compound, they're not acting like there's been a hostile sniper attack. They're moving around calmly, like they were expecting this." Maya felt a chill that had nothing to do with the desert morning air. Something was wrong with this entire situation, but she couldn't yet understand what it was. Patterson was already on her radio, demanding immediate intelligence updates and area surveillance reports. But Maya had a growing feeling that by the time those reports came back, a lot of things about this mission were going to look very different than they had seemed just a few minutes ago. The sun was now fully above the horizon, painting the desert landscape in golden light. Maya had successfully completed what was likely the longest sniper shot in the history of Forward Operating Base Phoenix. But instead of celebrating, everyone on the rooftop was beginning to realize that they might have just become part of something much larger and more complex than a simple elimination mission. The radio chatter started within minutes of Maya's shot, but it wasn't what anyone expected. Instead of reports about Taliban casualties and chaos in the target compound, the communications were confused and contradictory. "Phoenix Base, this is Overwatch 1, came a voice through Major Patterson's radio. "We're showing minimal thermal activity at the target location, but no signs of hostile response or evacuation procedures." Maya remained in position behind the Barrett, though her successful shot had been confirmed by Williams through the spotting scope. Something about the entire situation felt wrong, like a puzzle with pieces that didn't fit together properly. Lieutenant Colonel Barnes had climbed to the rooftop shortly after the shot, and now he was studying satellite feeds on a portable tablet while Patterson coordinated with various intelligence assets in the area. Chun, Williams, what exactly are you seeing in that compound right now? Barnes asked, his voice carrying a tone that Maya hadn't heard before. Williams adjusted his spotting scope and spent several long moments observing the target area. Sir, I can see approximately 6 to 8 individuals moving around the compound, but their behavior is unusual. They're not taking defensive positions or showing signs of panic. It's more like they're conducting some kind of organized activity. Maya shifted her scope to confirm Williams' observations. Through the powerful optic, she could see people moving in and out of buildings within a compound, but their movements seemed purposeful rather than reactive to a sniper attack. Patterson, what's our human intelligence saying about this location? Barnes demanded. Major Patterson was already pulling up files on her tablet. Sir, according to our sources, this compound has been used by al-Masri as a safe house for the past 6 weeks. Local informants confirmed his presence there as recently as yesterday evening. Barnes frowned at the satellite imagery. But our overhead surveillance isn't showing the kind of heat signatures we'd expect from a high-value target and a security detail. Maya felt a growing unease as she listened to the conversation. In all her studying of sniper operations, she had read about missions that weren't what they seemed, where intelligence was deliberately misleading or where the real purpose of an operation was hidden from the shooters. Sir, Maya said carefully, request permission to ask a question. Barnes looked at her with surprise. It was unusual for enlisted personnel to insert themselves into officer discussions, especially during active operations. Go ahead, Chun. How confident are we in the intelligence that placed al-Masri at this location? And how confident are we that the person I just shot was actually him? The question hung in the air for several seconds before Barnes answered. The intelligence came through normal channels, verified by multiple sources. As for positive identification, he paused. That was based on observed behavior patterns and general physical description. Williams lowered his spotting scope and looked at the officers. Sir, with respect, at 3,247 meters, even with magnification, positive identification of a specific individual would be extremely difficult unless we had very distinctive visual markers. Patterson was already getting back on her radio, demanding immediate post-strike assessment from intelligence assets. But Maya's training and instinct for telling her that something fundamental about this mission had been misrepresented. Sir, Maya said, I'd like to request clarification on the mission parameters. Was this a kill mission specifically targeting Zahir al-Masri, or was it a test of some kind? Barnes and Patterson exchanged glances that confirmed Maya's suspicions. There was information about this operation that hadn't been shared with the sniper team. Before either officer could respond, Patterson's radio crackled with an incoming message from Base Command. Phoenix Base, this is Command. We need immediate debrief on Operation Desert Strike. All personnel involved in the sniper operation report to Command Center immediately. As they packed up the Barrett and other equipment, Maya's mind was racing through the possibilities. The most obvious explanation was that the intelligence had been wrong and she had shot the wrong person. But the calm reaction from the compound suggested something more complex. The walk back to the command center felt longer than usual, with each member of the team lost in their own thoughts about what they had just experienced. Maya carried the Barrett case, but the weight of unanswered questions felt heavier than the 30-pound rifle. Inside the command center, they found a scene of intense activity. Additional officers had arrived, including some Maya didn't recognize who appeared to be from higher headquarters. Computer screens showed satellite feeds, intelligence reports, and communication logs from multiple sources. Colonel Harrison, the base commander, was waiting for them with an expression that revealed nothing about his thoughts on the morning's operation. He was a veteran officer with combat experience dating back to Iraq, and Maya had heard that he didn't appreciate surprises or unclear situations. Sergeant Chun, Harrison said without preamble, describe your shot sequence and observations. Maya provided a detailed account of the entire operation, from her setup through the actual shot and subsequent observations. She included her concerns about target identification and the unusual post-strike behavior at the compound. Harrison listened without interruption, occasionally making notes on a tablet. When Maya finished, he turned to Williams for the spotter's account, which confirmed Maya's observations. Major Patterson, Harrison said, brief everyone on the actual intelligence behind this operation. Patterson hesitated, glancing at Barnes before beginning. The intelligence placing Al-Masri at the target location was partially manufactured. Maya felt her stomach drop. Manufactured, mang. The compound was identified correctly as a Taliban safe house, and there have been legitimate high-value targets using it periodically. But the specific intelligence about Al-Masri being there this morning was enhanced to create the right conditions for this operation. Barnes stepped forward. Chun, this operation had multiple purposes. Yes, we needed to eliminate legitimate Taliban operatives in the area. But we also needed to test our long-range capabilities and evaluate our personnel under extreme conditions. Maya struggled to process this information. She had been told she was eliminating a specific high-value target responsible for American casualties. Instead, she had been used in some kind of elaborate training exercise or operational test. Sir, Maya said, trying to keep her voice steady. Who did I actually shoot? Colonel Harrison consulted his notes. According to post-strike intelligence gathering, the target was a mid-level Taliban operative named Hassan Karimi. He was involved in IED operations against coalition forces, so his elimination is strategically valuable. But he wasn't the high-profile target you were briefed about. Williams looked confused and angry. Sir, why wasn't the team briefed on the actual mission parameters? Operating under false pretenses affects decision-making and performance. Harrison nodded. That's a valid concern, specialist. But the purpose of this operation was to evaluate how our personnel perform under what they believe to be maximum stakes conditions. Training exercises, no matter how realistic, don't produce the same psychological pressure as believing you're conducting a critical mission. Maya felt a complex mix of emotions. Pride that she had successfully completed an extremely difficult shot, anger that she had been deceived about the mission, and confusion about whether her success meant what she thought it did. There's another element to this operation that you need to understand, Harrison continued. Sergeant Shun, your performance this morning was being evaluated not just by our intelligence and operations personnel, but by representatives from Special Operations Command and the Army Marksmanship Unit. Maya looked around the room and noticed for the first time that some of the unfamiliar officers were wearing different unit insignia than the regular Phoenix-based personnel. Your 3,247-meter shot under combat conditions is being reviewed for several possible records, including longest confirmed combat kill by female sniper and longest successful engagement from forward operating base Phoenix, Harrison explained. Lieutenant Colonel Barnes stepped closer to Maya. Chun, there's something else you should know about this morning's operation. The decision to give you this assignment wasn't random, and it wasn't just based on your range performance yesterday. Maya waited for him to continue, though she was beginning to suspect that very little about the past 24 hours had been what it seemed. We've been monitoring your self-directed training for the past several months, Barnes said. Your requests for sniper training, your independent study of ballistics, and long-range shooting techniques, your exceptional marksmanship scores. This operation was designed specifically to evaluate your potential for advanced sniper training and possible assignment to specialized units. The implications of this statement hit Maya like a physical blow. The mission hadn't been about eliminating Al-Masri, and it hadn't been about testing equipment or tactics. It had been about testing her. Sir, Maya said carefully, how long has this evaluation been in progress? Patterson consulted her tablet. Your performance has been under review since your deployment to Afghanistan began 8 months ago. Your consistent requests for sniper training, combined with your exceptional scores in marksmanship and tactical exercises, brought you to the attention of several specialized programs. Maya thought back over the past months, wondering how many other situations have been tests or evaluations that she hadn't recognized. Her assignment to Phoenix Base, the timing of her arrival, even yesterday's familiarization with the Barrett, all of it could have been orchestrated. What happens now? Maya asked. Colonel Harrison smiled for the first time since she had entered the command center. Now, Sergeant Chun, you have some decisions to make about your military career. Your performance this morning has opened doors that very few soldiers ever get the chance to walk through. Williams, who had been listening to the entire debriefing with growing amazement, finally spoke up. Sir, what about the tactical situation? Are we expecting Taliban retaliation for the strike? The Taliban response will be minimal, Harrison explained. Hassan Karimi wasn't important enough to their command structure to justify a major retaliation, and the compound has already been evacuated by our intelligence assets working in the area. Maya realized that even the post-strike security concerns had been managed as part of the larger operation. Nothing about the morning had been left to chance. Sergeant Chun, Barnes said, representatives from the Special Operations community would like to speak with you about opportunities for advanced training and specialized assignments. But first, you should understand that this morning's success represents just the beginning of what could be a very different military career. As the debriefing concluded and Maya found herself surrounded by officers from units she had only read about, she reflected on the strange twist that had brought her to this moment. She had spent months training herself for opportunities that never came, only to discover that those opportunities had been observing her all along. The Barrett shot had been successful beyond her wildest expectations, but it had also revealed that her military career was heading in directions she had never anticipated. The question now was whether she was ready for whatever came next. 3 days after the successful long-range shot, Maya was summoned to a meeting that would change everything she thought she understood about her military career. The message came through unusual channels, delivered personally by a staff officer she didn't recognize who wore no unit insignia, and provided no explanation beyond reporting to Building 7 at 1,400 hours. Building 7 was one of the restricted access structures on Phoenix Base, normally used for classified briefings and secure communications. Maya had never been inside before, and she was surprised by the sophisticated communications equipment and sound-dampening materials that lined the walls. Waiting for her was a man she immediately recognized as General Marcus Stone, though seeing him in person was completely unexpected. Stone was a legend in the Army Special Operations community, with a career spanning multiple conflicts and a reputation for unconventional thinking about warfare and personnel development. The general was not particularly imposing physically, average height with graying hair, and the kind of weathered face that spoke of years spent in harsh environments. But his presence filled the room in a way that made Maya understand why soldiers followed him into impossible situations. Sergeant Chun, Stone said without any preliminary courtesies, sit down. We need to have a conversation that's been 15 years in the making. Maya took the offered chair, confused by the reference to 15 years. She had only been in the military for 4 years, and before that she had been in high school and college. General Stone pulled out a thick file folder that bore Maya's name and opened it to reveal documents that appeared to span much longer than her military service. Before we discuss your future, I need to tell you about your past, Stone began. Specifically about events that occurred when you were 9 years old that you probably don't remember or remember differently than how they actually happened. Maya felt a chill of recognition. There was indeed something from her childhood that she had never fully understood, memories that seemed incomplete or inconsistent with what her family had told her. In 2006, your family was living in San Diego while your father was stationed at Camp Pendleton, Stone continued. You were attending elementary school on the base, and by all accounts you were a bright but unremarkable military child. Maya nodded, remembering that period of her life vaguely. Her father had been a Marine sergeant, and they had moved frequently during her childhood. On October 15, 2006, there was an incident at the school that was never reported in any official records, Stone said, consulting the file. A military contractor visiting the base recognized you and immediately contacted his superiors with information that led to the most unusual security classification I've ever encountered in my career. Maya searched her memory for any significant event from that time period, but came up empty. Sir, I don't remember anything unusual happening when I was 9. You wouldn't, Stone replied. The incident was handled so discreetly that even your parents were never fully informed about what had occurred. Stone pulled out a photograph from the file and placed it on the table between them. It showed Maya as a 9-year-old child standing next to a man in military clothing that she didn't recognize. But something about the image seemed familiar in a way that made her uncomfortable. The contractor who recognized you was named David Kim, a former Army intelligence officer who had been working in Afghanistan since 2003, Stone explained. Kim had been present at a classified operation in Kandahar province 2 years earlier, in 2004, when you were 7 years old. Maya stared at the photograph, trying to process what Stone was telling her. Sir, I was never in Afghanistan when I was 7. My family was stationed in North Carolina at that time. According to official records, yes, Stone agreed. But official records don't always tell the complete story, especially when national security and family protection are involved. Stone opened another section of the file, revealing documents that Maya had never seen before. Maps of Afghanistan, personnel records with sections blacked out, and what appear to be after-action reports from military operations. In 2004, your father was selected for a classified assignment in Afghanistan, Stone continued. The mission required him to pose as a civilian contractor, and his cover story involved bringing his family to establish credibility as a long-term resident in the region. Maya felt like the ground was shifting beneath her. Everything she thought she knew about her childhood was being rewritten with each sentence Stone spoke. Your family spent 6 months in Afghanistan, primarily in the Kandahar area, while your father conducted intelligence operations against Taliban leadership, Stone explained. You attended a local school, learned basic Dari language skills, and became familiar with Afghan culture in a way that was useful for your father's cover. Maya tried to remember anything about Afghanistan from when she was 7, but her memories from that period were fragmented and unclear. She had always assumed the gaps were normal childhood forgetfulness. The mission was successful until the final weeks, when your father's cover was compromised and the family had to be evacuated under emergency conditions, Stone continued. During the evacuation, there was an incident that demonstrated your potential value to military intelligence operations. Stone pulled out another document, this one bearing official seals and classification markings that Maya recognized from her current security clearance. Taliban forces had surrounded the evacuation site, and your father was injured during the initial assault, Stone read from the document. With limited ammunition and no immediate backup available, the evacuation team was trapped in a compound similar to the one you engaged 3 days ago. Maya began to understand where this story was leading, though she still couldn't remember any of the events Stone was describing. According to the after-action report, you observed the tactical situation and made suggestions to the team leader about sniper positions and target priorities that were so sophisticated they seemed impossible coming from a 7-year-old child, Stone continued. Stone showed Maya a page from the report that included direct quotes attributed to her at age 7. The tactical language and strategic thinking described in the document seemed far beyond what any child should have been capable of understanding. More importantly, when the team leader was killed and the situation became desperate, you took control of a sniper rifle and eliminated 2 Taliban fighters at distances of over 400 meters, Stone read. Both shots were center mass hits that probably saved the lives of everyone in your evacuation team. Maya stared at the documents, trying to reconcile this information with her complete lack of memory about these events. Sir, I don't remember any of this. How is that possible? Memory modification was part of your family's extraction protocol, Stone explained. The decision was made that your safety and your father's continued usefulness in intelligence operations required that these events be classified at the highest levels and removed from your conscious memory. Stone closed the file and looked directly at Maya. The contractor who recognized you in San Diego had been part of your evacuation team in Afghanistan. He remembered what you had done, and he reported it to his superiors because he believed your natural abilities represented a national security asset. Maya felt overwhelmed by the implications of what Stone was telling her. Her entire military career, her struggles to gain access to sniper training, her persistent interest in long-range shooting, all of it suddenly made sense in a completely different context. Since 2006, your military career has been carefully guided to develop your natural abilities while keeping your classified background protected, Stone continued. Your assignment to Phoenix Base, the timing of yesterday's operation, even your access to the Barrett rifle, All of it was orchestrated to evaluate whether your childhood capabilities had survived into adulthood. Stone reopened the file to a section marked with current dates. Your 3,247-meter shot 3 days ago confirmed what we suspected. Your natural abilities as a marksman and tactical thinker are not just exceptional, they're historically unprecedented. Maya tried to speak, but found she had no words for the situation she found herself in. Everything she thought she knew about herself, her career, and her family had been fundamentally altered in the space of 20-minute conversation. "I understand this is overwhelming," Stone said with unexpected gentleness. "But you need to understand that your success 3 days ago has created a situation where your classified background can no longer be completely hidden from you." Stone pulled out one final document, this one bearing current classification markings and official seals. "The Department of Defense is prepared to offer you assignment to the most specialized sniper programs in the military, with accelerated promotion and access to operations that very few people ever know exist." Maya looked at the document, but couldn't focus on the specific text. Her mind was still trying to process the revelation that her entire life had been shaped by events she couldn't remember. "Sir," Maya finally managed to say, "what about my family? Do they know about any of this?" Stone nodded. "Your parents have been briefed on the general situation, though they're not aware of all the operational details. They were told that your military career might involve specialized assignments that require enhanced security protocols." Maya thought about her parents, wondering how much they remembered about their time in Afghanistan, and how much had been modified or classified like her own memories. "There's one more thing you need to understand," Stone said. "The shot you made 3 days ago, the circumstances surrounding it, the people who observed it, all of that information is now classified at levels that exceed most military operations. Your success has made you a national security asset, whether you choose to accept specialized assignments or not." Stone stood up, indicating that the briefing was concluding. "Sergeant Chun, you have 48 hours to decide whether you want to accept assignment to the Army's most classified sniper program, or whether you prefer to continue with conventional military service under enhanced security protocols." As Maya prepared to leave, Stone added one final comment that would stay with her for the rest of her military career. "The Barrett rifle you used for yesterday's shot was specially configured for your specific physical characteristics and shooting style, based on data collected during your childhood incident in Afghanistan. We've been preparing for this moment for 15 years. Maya left Building 7 with her understanding of reality completely transformed, knowing that her next decision would determine not just her military career, but her entire future relationship with the truth about her past. Maya spent the next 48 hours in a state of mental and emotional turmoil unlike anything she had experienced in her adult life. General Stone's revelations about her childhood had fundamentally altered her understanding of herself, her family, and her entire military career. Every decision she had made, every goal she had pursued, suddenly seemed like part of a larger plan that she hadn't known existed. She walked the perimeter of Phoenix Base repeatedly during those 2 days, trying to process the information and decide what it meant for her future. The desert landscape that had seemed familiar and comfortable now felt different, as if she was seeing it through new eyes that carried memories she couldn't quite access. The other soldiers on base noticed her distraction, but attributed it to the stress of completing such a challenging shot. Maya was grateful that her actual situation remained classified, because she couldn't have explained it to anyone even if she had been permitted to try. On the second evening, as she sat on an ammunition crate watching the sunset paint the mountains in shades of red and gold, Staff Sergeant Rodriguez approached and settled down beside her. "Chun, you've been walking around like a ghost for 2 days," Rodriguez said without preamble. "I don't know what's going on with all the classified meetings and special briefings, but you need to know that whatever happens next, you've already proven yourself as a soldier." Maya appreciated his concern, though she couldn't share the complexity of her situation. "Thanks, Sergeant. I'm just trying to figure out some career decisions." Rodriguez was quiet for a moment, studying the distant mountains. "I've been in the Army for 14 years, and I've seen a lot of soldiers face crossroads in their careers. Sometimes the choice isn't really about what you want to do, but about who you want to be. His words resonated with Maya in ways he couldn't possibly understand. The decision she faced wasn't just about accepting a specialized assignment, but about accepting a version of herself that she was only beginning to understand. What would you do if you had the chance to join something that could make a real difference, but required giving up most of what you thought you knew about yourself? Maya asked. Rodriguez considered the question seriously. I guess it would depend on whether I thought the person I could become was worth more than the person I thought I was. That night, Maya made her decision. She couldn't deny the evidence of her abilities, and she couldn't ignore the fact that she had always felt drawn to exactly the kind of challenges that General Stone was offering. More importantly, she realized that the person she had been trying to become through her self-directed training was actually the person she had always been, buried under years of modified memories and careful guidance. The next morning, Maya reported to Building 7 at the requested time. General Stone was waiting for her, along with several other officers she didn't recognize, and a woman in civilian clothing who appeared to be some kind of medical or psychological specialist. "Sergeant Chun," Stone said as she entered, "have you reached a decision about your future assignment?" "Yes, sir," Maya replied. "I accept assignment to the specialized program, with one condition." Stone raised his eyebrows, apparently not accustomed to enlisted personnel proposing conditions for classified assignments. "I want to understand what happened to my memories from Afghanistan, and I want the chance to recover them if that's possible," Maya continued. "I need to know who I really am before I can fully commit to who I'm supposed to become." Stone exchanged glances with the woman in civilian clothing, who nodded slightly. "Dr. Sarah Martinez is a specialist in memory recovery related to childhood trauma and security protocols," Stone explained. "If you're willing to undergo the process, it's possible to restore some of your memories from 2004. But you should understand that those memories may include traumatic events that were suppressed for your psychological protection." Maya had anticipated this possibility. "Sir, I'd rather deal with traumatic memories that are real than continue living with gaps that leave me questioning everything about myself." Dr. Martinez stepped forward. "Sergeant Chun, the memory recovery process will take several weeks and must be conducted in a controlled environment. You'll be temporarily assigned to a medical facility where we can monitor your psychological response to the recovered information." Stone opened a new file folder. "If you proceed with memory recovery, your assignment to the specialized sniper program will be delayed, but not canceled. We believe that understanding your full background will actually improve your effectiveness in advanced operations." Maya nodded her understanding. "When do we begin?" "Immediately," Dr. Martinez replied. "You'll be transported to Walter Reed Medical Center today, where we have the facilities and expertise necessary for this type of procedure." As Maya prepared to leave Phoenix Base, possibly forever, she took one final look at the Barrett rifle that had started this entire process. The massive weapon seemed different to her now, less like an impossible challenge and more like a tool that had always belonged in her hands. Lieutenant Colonel Barnes met her at the helicopter landing zone as she prepared to depart for her new assignment. "Chin," Barnes said, "I don't know all the details about where you're going or what you'll be doing, but I want you to know that your performance here has been exceptional. Whatever happens next, you've earned it." Maya shook his hand gratefully. "Thank you, sir, for giving me the chance to prove myself. Just remember," Barnes added, "sometimes the most important battles are the ones nobody else ever hears about." The helicopter ride to the transport aircraft felt different from Maya's arrival at Phoenix Base just days earlier. She was leaving as a completely different person than the one who had arrived, carrying questions about her past and possibilities for her future that she had never imagined. During the long flight to Washington, D.C., Maya reflected on the journey that had brought her to this moment. From a frustrated soldier requesting sniper training to someone who had completed one of the longest confirmed combat kills in military history, all in the space of a few days. But more importantly, from someone who felt like she was fighting against her own limitations to someone who was beginning to understand that those limitations had never been real. The memory recovery process at Walter Reed proved to be even more intense than Dr. Martinez had warned. Over the course of 3 weeks, Maya gradually recovered fragments of her experiences in Afghanistan as a 7-year-old child. The memories came back in pieces, like a puzzle being slowly assembled. She remembered the compound where her family had been trapped, the sounds of gunfire and explosions, the fear and confusion of being in a combat situation as a small child. But she also remembered the strange clarity she had felt when analyzing the tactical situation, the natural understanding of angles and distances and target priorities that had seemed to come from nowhere. Most importantly, she remembered taking the rifle from the wounded soldier and making the shots that saved her family and the evacuation team. The memories were traumatic, but they were also revelatory. She understood now that her abilities weren't the result of training or luck, but something fundamental about how her mind processed spatial relationships and tactical problems. When a memory recovery was complete, Maya met with General Stone one final time before beginning her assignment to the Army's most classified sniper program. "How do you feel about what you've remembered?" Stone asked. "Like I finally understand who I really am," Maya replied. "And like I'm ready to find out who I can become." Stone smiled, the first genuine expression of warmth Maya had seen from him. "The program you're entering is called Project Longshot. It's a joint military and intelligence operation that handles situations requiring precision shooting under conditions that conventional military forces can't address." He handed Maya a new set of orders, classified at levels she had never seen before. "Your first assignment will be 6 months of advanced training at a facility that officially doesn't exist, learning techniques and technologies that are decades ahead of conventional military capabilities." As Maya prepared to leave for her new assignment, she thought about the path that had brought her to this moment. From a 9-year-old child making impossible shots in Afghanistan to a soldier completing a 3,247-meter elimination on a Taliban operative, her entire life had been leading to this opportunity. The Barrett rifle had revealed her capabilities, but General Stone's revelations had revealed her purpose. She was finally ready to become the soldier she had always been meant to be, with full knowledge of both her extraordinary abilities and the traumatic experiences that had shaped them. Maya Chun, the frustrated soldier who had been denied sniper training, no longer existed. In her place was someone who understood that she had never needed permission to become exceptional, because she had been exceptional all along. The only question now was how she would use that understanding to serve her country in ways that few people would ever know about. As her transport aircraft lifted off toward her new assignment, Maya looked down at the landscape below and felt, for the first time in her adult life, that she was exactly where she belonged. The Barrett .50 caliber had been the key that unlocked her future, but the real weapon had always been the person holding it. The general had put the Barrett in her hands and stood still after recognizing not just her shooting ability, but the child soldier who had saved lives 15 years earlier. Now Maya was finally ready to discover what that recognition would mean for the missions ahead, armed with both recovered memories and capabilities that few people possessed. Project Longshot was waiting, and Maya Chun was ready to become the sniper she had always been destined to be.